What's going on, guys? I'm IcyRhythms, and this is my review for Metro Exodus. What is there to say about this game and its graphics that you likely haven't already heard many times before? Metro Exodus is one of the most gorgeous creations in the history of video games. Let's try and keep in mind that it's a linear game, and because of that, a lot of times a talented developer can do a lot more in the way of attention to detail in some of those small corridor type environments. And oh man, let me tell you, this game has a lot of attention to detail. For a linear game, this is arguably the best looking linear title I've seen for this generation, and that includes stuff like the latest Tomb Raider games, a few titles from Nintendo and Sony, and even games where you just appreciate not only how amazing it looks, but the technology that powers it, like Doom or Wolfenstein, now and forever also known as Wolfendooms. Some moments in the game that don't allow you to have much control over the game itself or the camera, they actually look like cutscenes because the character models look so damn good and detailed. I thought I was watching cutscenes in some of these moments. You can see the stitching on many of the clothes, and the armor sets look like something someone would actually wear as real armor. I'm playing Metro Exodus on PC at 1440p, and there's just so much detail. I can't even imagine what you guys at 4K or possibly even higher on PC get the pleasure of viewing. I'm sure it's something even more special. But this game, I think regardless of platform, is just a pleasure to look at, period. It's really that good. What 4A Games does, and possibly better than just about anyone else, is create a really amazing sense of atmosphere. Whether it's the amazing lighting techniques in their engine that set the mood of an area, or the loneliness that you feel in these Metro games, 4A is truly a master of their craft. I won't lie to you in this review. Metro Exodus is a very demanding game, but I also feel it's one of those few titles where it's very deserving of the hardware it requires to see it in all of its amazing glory. This game is on the very, very short list of titles for this generation that I'd argue are a true step up and a full generation ahead of just about everything else. If you've got the hardware to run it, you're in for one of the biggest and best visual treats in the history of video games. Going into Metro Exodus and not really watching a lot of reviews or just a lot of information about what people were saying about this game, I really thought they were trying to go completely open world with this game, and I was wrong. Metro Exodus is probably more open linear than anything else. 4A has brought the usual Metro gameplay mechanics into these open linear environments, and somehow it still works. I don't think the gameplay has changed in a big way from the other Metro games, but they've made enough of the smaller improvements, the nice, finer attention to detail type of improvements to tell a difference. If you've played the other Metro games, I think you're going to feel right at home here. If there's one area that does feel a lot better and in some ways a lot different than other Metro games, it's the guns and the shooting. All of the weapons you have access to feel and look so much better to shoot in Metro Exodus. They've completely tightened up the shooting mechanics, and their efforts really shine bright here. I like the workbenches that allow you to customize those weapons any way you'd like by adding different attachments for bigger clip sizes, maybe a scope or no scope, better grips for stability. I also like they added the ability to clean or repair those weapons. That's a nice little touch to me. It's been a while since I played the other Metro games, so maybe that was a part of them. I can't remember. If your weapons and mask are dirty or damaged, you'll need to repair those, or you're going to risk weapon instability and jamming, or possibly having to repair that mask further. There's sort of like a little patch or band-aid that you can put on your mask after a while. Those benches will also be how you use the looted materials you pick up from enemies to craft ammo and mask filters. None of this is necessarily new in video games, but it's very detailed in Metro, and something they didn't have to do but did it anyway because it can really change the way you play. I feel like I should go back and play on the most challenging difficulty at some point, because those mechanics would make for a very interesting hardcore run where you just have to choose every move very, very carefully. Being able to sneak or stealth around is still very much a thing in Metro Exodus. Sure, you can go into most situations guns blazing and probably come out on top in a lot of those situations, but I don't feel that's how these Metro games were meant to be played. It's a slow-paced Wolfen Doom with a lot of elements, and those stealth mechanics will save you a ton of ammo. I like to do sort of a combination of the two. I'll go into a lot of environments attempting stealth, maybe get 2 or 3 kills, but the moment that fails, I'm coming out as loud as possible. And getting those knife kills, or coming up from behind, throwing a knife into an enemy's head and neck, more satisfying than ever in Metro Exodus. As far as varied enemy types and having a lot of different things to kill, Metro Exodus does have that, but you're not going to kill like, 60, 70 different enemy types here. Metro games have never been that way. There are old threats in Metro Exodus, as well as some new enemy types that I don't remember the other 2 games having. Different weapons work better on some of those enemies, as well as where you're at in the game and in different environments. You'll have to play around with the game's mechanics and decide, hey, this play style works best for me. I know what works for me. I have my own preferred play style. I chose the medium difficulty for this particular playthrough, and while I rarely felt like I was being truly challenged, this game can be brutal, very brutal. The sense of loneliness you feel, the damage some of the enemies do, and the enemy type in this case is irrelevant. Most of the enemies do a lot of damage with 1 or 2 attacks, with any range of those attacks. This is why I mentioned earlier, I don't think this game was designed to do much running and gunning, or any of the Metro games for that matter. You'll quickly find yourself in a lot of trouble thinking you can run up on some of the more dangerous enemy types that stand around in groups, just going in like you own the place. And yes, demons, oh man, demons are still a thing. Seriously, 4A, I'm so tired of these things picking me up and dropping me like I'm some piece of garbage. For me, there probably isn't a more annoying enemy type in the Metro games. Oh wait, that's right, spiders. Yeah, spiders. I don't care for spiders in real life. Enough said. It's not just the varied enemy types that are your problem in Metro Exodus either. Fire is your enemy. Different elements in the environment can be your enemy. The weather is your enemy. And don't make the same mistake I did when playing New Game Plus by turning on more frequent bad weather. Huge, huge mistake.
Artyom, Amir, a new mission. We've been contacted by a local lady, Cuba. She's being besieged by bandits at the lighthouse. Should we help her? She'll help us.
The mission structure is pretty simple to understand. See X on the map, go there. Got binoculars, see the handful of other places on the map that are optional to visit. If you want all of the weapon types and upgrades, you'll want to do something that's not just the main story. There is kind of boss battles, I guess, and there's not many, which I think is a good thing because the overall pacing of these Metro games would feel a little off for me if a bunch of sections ended in a boss battle. Metro has just never really been that type of game. I'd also argue, and this is going to vary from person to person, obviously, Metro has never really been the most fun game to play. It's not your crazy, typical Wolf and Doom over-the-top action at every turn. In some situations will require you to use your brain a bit. The improvements to the gunplay and the amazing detailed atmosphere, that makes Metro fun. The gameplay in these Metro games, Metro Exodus easily the best for this, but they do just enough to not feel super basic or completely bland, however you want to look at that. And again, I think turning the difficulty much higher would change a lot. On medium, it feels like survival action with great atmosphere and some awesome set pieces. On the highest, I'm sure it would feel like a complete survival only type of game with also that same great atmosphere and cool set pieces. A little bit of a side note, I don't know if anyone has ever actually said this or not, but don't let anyone try and convince you that Metro is just a linear Fallout game. It's not, and that's a lie. Someone once tried to convince me that Stalker was like Fallout, and I came away very disappointed. We can start with the fact that Metro games are far more polished, and every one of them looks better than any Fallout game, but that's for a completely different video. In what is probably just one of my very few complaints with the game, I missed the Metro tunnels just a few hours into Metro Exodus. I love all the new environments and locations that you get to experience. I really get what they were trying to go for here, but I just feel Metro works best, well, in the Metro. I don't want to take anything away from what 4A has done here. They obviously wanted to try something a lot different and allow us gamers to experience something outside of cold Metro tunnels. I get that. But when Exodus is on, and it's at its best, it's in those sections where you're back in those dark, lonely tunnels. And I hope we can get back to that in the next Metro title.
Our guys caught your friend, but I can see your two are not bandits. I'll help you out if you don't do anything stupid. Gotta run now. Just stay out of sight and you'll be...
The Metro games have always had excellent writing and stories to tell. I've never bothered to read any of the source material, even though I've heard really good things. Metro Exodus is no different. They still have those amazing accents and those voices that we've come to know and love. I'm not sure if all of the voice actors are authentic, or some of them are also American or from other countries, but over the years, they've been very convincing and more than solid. You never feel that what's happening in Metro seems forced, or it's something the developers or the actors didn't really want to do. There's always been this certain passion that you feel when watching these stories unfold as you play. Metro Exodus is definitely the most cinematic game 4A have made today. They went all out with your different camera angles and better facial expressions to show some true emotion. They've nearly perfected it, in my opinion. I think with some more time put into those animations and body language and faces of the characters in these games, they'd be able to compete with some of the better developers in the industry. They've really nailed it with animations and different things you do during gameplay, but story elements and cutscenes that you have no control over at times, they're getting there. 4A is certainly trying. I can't argue that. I was a little worried when I found out you spent less time in the Metro tunnels, and I thought the story would feel a lot less focused than previous Metro games. Those fears were quickly calmed when they managed to keep things simple, even in those more open areas. RTM still talks to you in the loading screens, which helps give you more of an idea about his thoughts on the current situation happening in those moments, but I also feel a little annoyed, and this may also be because I haven't played the other Metro games for quite some time, but I was a little annoyed with people calling Artyom's name all the time. Why do we need to address him by name every time you're speaking to him? Even if everyone already knows who you're talking to and looking at, it was bothering me in this game. Why do we need to say Artyom every time? Just like with the gameplay, the story is at its best when you feel more alone, and the overall game feels less and less forgiving. Though I did appreciate some of the completely optional side content, walking around the train, or moments where some of the characters are seen in the environments and it allows you to engage with them in very personal ways. There is one section in this game that's extremely dark and sinister, and it caught me off guard. I couldn't believe they put that in the game. I was like, wow, this is really crazy, but also so damn good, you know? If you've already played and enjoyed the previous Metro games and how well crafted, how well written those are, I can't see why you wouldn't like Metro Exodus.
Has to stop! There's only Metro, nothing else. And the Order is here to defend it. Because if not us, then who?
I am so happy for 4A Games. They're in much better working conditions in terms of their development process than they were with the previous two Metro games. You had those stories about them having to smuggle those awesome PCs into their country just to avoid having customs take them away. I think there may have also been some flooding in their offices, and they didn't have heat a lot of the time, resulting in very cold working conditions. It's almost like they were making these games somewhere in the Metro. It's crazy. I mean, think about that. Really think about that. Those conditions, and these guys are over here making these amazing games that always set a new benchmark for visuals every time they put something out. That's dedication, and that's talent. Metro Exodus, in many ways, is the best game they've made yet. Certainly the best looking and the best playing game. If they tighten up the animation work on the characters themselves and come through with an even better story next time, I think many people will finally say their name in the same breath as your Rockstars, your Capcoms, and Naughty Dogs of the world. In my opinion, they already deserve to be there. I'm giving Metro Exodus a 9 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again, all the continued support. You guys have a good one. If you're buying this game on Steam, yes, it's worth it. I played it a year ago. It was worth it then. Really enjoyed the game. I'm reviewing it now. You guys take care. Peace. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, that too. Have a good one. Take care.